Hello there, very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. We're coming to you live and direct from our News First studios here in Colombo. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team, and with me is my co-anchor Naviksha Gunasekara. Good evening, Naviksha.
Good evening, Charlotte. Before we start off with our bulletin, let's now take a look at our headlines for tonight.
Samurdhi beneficiaries who were dropped out of the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program protest. Ruling party MP calls for temporary suspension of the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit. Use of the Indian manufactured anesthetic suspended pending investigation. Titan sub destroyed in catastrophic implosion. All 5 aboard dead. Sri Lanka win big against Oman at the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier.
Taking a look at those stories in detail, a large number of some of the beneficiaries who were not added to the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program have begun to express their dismay over this move.
Now, Charlotte, they allege the program to select those who would benefit from the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program is unjust.
The list of beneficiaries who were selected for the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program was made public recently. Those who received the Samurdhi benefit until now were not added to the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program are protesting. Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program payments will be distributed among 4 social categories, namely transitional, vulnerable, poor and extremely poor. Over the past few months, the process to select those who qualify for the program took place, and the list of beneficiaries was made public after considering the requests that were put forward. People from the Trincomalee visited their local divisional secretariat to inquire why they were not included in the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program.
අසන්නයගේ දේවල් අද කඩා වඩාගෙන මේ රජයේ නිලධාරි ගොල්ලෝ මේ අයව පලා හැරලා තියෙන මිනිහටම දීලා හරිම අසාධාරණයක්. වසර 5ක කාලයක් වුණ සමුද්‍ර ප්‍රතිලාභයේ තිබිලා දැනන මගේ නම කපලා තියෙනවා. නිසි නිලධාරීන් එන්න අපේ නිවෙස් වලට ඇවිල්ලා හොයා බලන්න අපේ විස්තර.
As no proper solution was given, the group decided to protest by obstructing the Kandy Trincomalee main road. News First correspondents said that the groups protested until Friday evening. Another group gathered opposite the Vattala Divisional Secretariat, anticipating a solution to their issue.
Light bill, water bill, ඒවා කොහොම මැති ඇමතිවරුන්ට කසා ගන්න පුළුවන් විදියට එයාලා වැඩි කරගෙන මේ අහිංසක මිනිසුන්ට හැම වෙලාවෙම සමෘද්ධි ආධාර කපලා දානවා. සාධාරණයිද? මේ සමෘද්ධිය බලාගෙන තමයි සමහරක් විට ණයක් හරි වෙනවා. මේක ගත්තම ඒකෙන් දෙන්නම් හරි කියලා ළමයිගේ ඉස්කෝල වලට ඔක්කොම කරගන්නේ. දැන් ඔක්කොම කපලා දාලා. ආපහාම කියනවා කපන්න හේතුව ලයිට් බිල බලලලු. මෙච්චර කාලයක් රුපියල් 500ක් ආපු අපිට මේ රජයේ වැරද්දෙන් තමයි දැන් 5000 ගණන් එන්නේ. ඒක 5000 ගෙවන්න පුළුවන් කියලා සමෘද්ධිය කපනවා. ෆොටෝ ගත්තනම් අපිය ගෙවල් ඉස්සරහා තියලා තියෙන මනුස්සයට තියෙන්නේ නැහැ, නැති මනුස්සයෙක් කොහොමද කැපෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේක කොහොමද සංශෝධනය කරේ? අපි අහන්නේ ඒකයි.
Several of them were given an opportunity to meet and discuss the issue. However, it ended with no result. Another protest took place opposite the Valigama Divisional Secretariat, obstructing the Gaul Mathura main road. They demanded that the selection of the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program be revealed. Thereafter, they protested by obstructing the main gate of the Valigama Divisional Secretariat. A similar protest took place opposite the Imado Pradeshya Sabha.
අපි ළමයින්ට උගන්න ගන්න විදිය නැහැ කුලී වැඩ කරන්නේ මහත්තයා. අපිට මේව දෙන්නම් කියලා තමයි අරන් යන්නේ. ආවලගේ කපන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අන්තිමට අපිට තියුණු මුද්දරෙත් කපලා දාලා.
Another group that was left out of the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program visited the Doluwa Divisional Secretariat and the Doluwa Divinaguma Regional Office to inquire about it.
මුර්ධිය කැපුවා කියලා අදාළ තැන් වලට කියන්නකොට කියනවා මේ ඇප්ලිකේෂන් දාන්න කියලා එව්වා ගෙනාපුවම බාර ගන්නෙත් නැහැ. අපිට මොනවා කරන්නද කියලා අපිට තේරෙන්නෙත් නැහැ.
සමෘද්ධිය ඕන දැන් මොකද හැමෝම ජීවත් වෙන්න බොහොම අමාරුවෙන්. රජෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටින්නේ මේ කරන අපරාධ ඇතරම නැති කරන්න කියලා.
Ruling party MP Jagat Kumara has called for the temporary suspension of the Aswasuma Welfare Benefit Program and solve the existing issues.
The entire country is in shock. A large number of ruling party MPs discussed this and decided to speak to the President about it. Until then, I would request that the Prime Minister temporarily suspend the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program and solve the existing issues. Allow the people to express their issues. If not, a wave of protests would erupt across the country. The election process is flawed. It was done in haste by the Finance Ministry and the Welfare Benefits Board. In Mana, people have been lining up outside the divisional secretariats. Therefore, this needs to be suspended temporarily. I make this request from you. The IMF is aiming to identify the actual poor people in the country and provide the benefits to them. However, that is not what is happening today. The kidney patients had been struck off. The physically challenged have been struck off. This was introduced to eliminate those who do not qualify for the benefits. However, it has instead increased the number of those who do not qualify. People would wonder what is the use of this government. The SLPP and the UNP joined to form this government and they are now discussing their internal issues. I produced the data prepared by Learn Asia. It says that poverty has increased from 3 million to 7 million. That is an increase of 4 million people. If the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program will actually provide relief, only 1.2 million will receive the benefits awarded for 3 years. That is the reason for the protests. The Prime Minister must instruct the Department of Census and Statistics to conduct a household income survey.
Statistics Department එකට කියන්න household income and expenditure survey එකක් කරන්න කියලා.
The survey was conducted for several months in the past. As certain officers did not take part in the survey, we had to obtain the services of specially trained volunteers. The rich can never get this. Low-income earners and those who are suffering from illnesses cannot be eliminated from the program. There is time to file appeals. If there is an issue, those affected can follow the appeal process. You say that those selected for the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program can file appeals. However, when I discussed this with officials at the Committee on Public Finance, they said that there is no program for that. Appeals can be filed from the 20th to the 30th. If a person who does not qualify for this program has been detected, a complaint can be filed with the Divisional Secretariat. The District Secretary can appoint a committee to investigate and determine if this person is eligible or not for the Aswasama Welfare Benefit Program. Those who are not the subject matter of any appeal or complaint will be receiving their payments from July. The list that was made public is not the finalized version. This list was made public to make way for appeals and complaints. When the payment for July is made, applications will be called for in August for the next year. Therefore, we believe that we would be able to address any shortcomings. We cannot suspend this program. We have been advised by the IMF, bilateral creditors and even the World Bank that in order to ease the economic pressure that would be the reforms to address the economic crisis, it is important to select the vulnerable groups and provide them with benefits to continue to survive. That is what we are doing.
වැඩි ප්‍රතිලාභ ලබා දෙන්න වැඩසටහනක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න කියලා. ඒක තමයි මේ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ. දේශපාලනයක් තියෙනවා මේකේ.
This is politicized. When the Welfare Act was taken up for debate in Parliament, the opposition leader proposed that suggestions made by Sri Lankan experts in Harvard to provide benefits based on the electricity tariff be implemented. It was ignored. A committee was appointed. However, who is in this committee? They are the government associates. If you can prove with evidence that this program was politicized, we will take measures to correct those mistakes. The collective of Samurdhi trade unions convened a media briefing on Friday. Several ineligible persons are included in this list. The government has continuously stressed that Samurdhi subsidies have been given according to the discretion of the concerned officers. Parliamentarians who gave the wrong advice passed the blame on to the officials. So we expected that while we were trying to introduce these subsidies with a software and an application, that these welfare subsidies would only be given to the eligible persons. But that has not happened. This has resulted in a situation where the people from the same village are now fighting over. We would like to highlight the fact that the government tried to achieve the political expectations through this. There is a reason for that. To fulfill the conditions of the IMF, the government encouraged the people of the country to submit appeals and that they would do justice. We do not expect to do justice to the thousands of eligible persons through appeals because the government has imposed certain restrictions on the welfare subsidies. Therefore, we strongly believe that there is no point in submitting appeals.
The National Medicines Regulatory Authority said that the relevant batch groups of the Indian manufactured anesthetic bupivacaine will be taken out of use until the investigations are complete.
NMRA Chairman Professor S.D. Jayaratna said that this particular drug was only distributed to the government hospitals.
Two women who were admitted to the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital to undergo cesarean and hernia surgery had developed complications because they were administered with the Indian manufactured anesthetic bupivacaine hydrochloride in tetros injection. The anesthetic was imported to Sri Lanka via Section 109 of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority Act without NMRA registration. Section 109 of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority Act notes that the authority may grant permission in special circumstances, such as to save a life, to control an outbreak of an infection or an epidemic or any other national emergency, or for national security, to import and supply a particular medicine, medical device or borderline product in specified quantities. It notes that such permission may be granted on a request made by the Minister of Health. The Indian manufactured anesthetic bupivacaine hydrochloride in tetros injection was imported to Sri Lanka via this provision.
If Section 109 of the Act can be used to import medicines, what is the use of the NMRA and the Health Minister? If a disaster like what struck Turkey took place, or if the COVID pandemic arose again, then such an excuse can be given. A registration process is in place to prevent such incidents from taking place and to prevent people from developing side effects. All those linked to the Amal Biso drama must apologize and resign.
මේ අමල් බිසෝ නාටකමට සම්බන්ධ සියලු දෙනා ජාතියෙන් සමාවර්ගෙන ඉල්ලා සිටු අපිට අලුත්ම වාර්තාවේ ඉතා පැහැදිලිව තියෙනවා.
The latest report clearly states that there is an issue with regard to this anesthetic. The National Medicines Quality Assurance Laboratory that said that there was no issue is now releasing this report. This report should have been obtained before the pregnant woman and principal passed away. If that was done, those 2 lives could have been saved. The minister says he is not responsible for what is done via Section 109 of the Act. On the other hand, the NMRA says that it is not its responsibility. So who is responsible for this? Section 109 was included for emergency situations. Was there an emergency situation in Sri Lanka at the time when importing this anesthetic? Did the Health Minister request to deviate from due process and follow this method? Can a report be produced by amending the dates?
Section 109 of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority Act notes that permission may be granted on a request made by the Minister of Health. So, can the ministry simply cast aside its responsibility in the regulation process? What is the clarification that will be given to the masses? Who will be held responsible for influencing the regulation process and placing people's lives at risk?
Anubha Pascual is the State Minister of Social Empowerment and he was elected to Parliament from the SLPP, and he said if there is no proper regulation, the country would go astray.
Media regulation is compulsory. All the media programs do not bring out justice. Everyone must have a responsibility. Politicians must be responsible. The officials have a responsibility on what they are assigned to do. Similarly, media should also be responsible. So do the people. All of them should be responsible. The control of irresponsible actions is regulation. That happens across the world in all the units. If actions aren't regulated, the country will become wild. Therefore, regulation is mandatory.
State Minister, this is an amusing statement. You are all well aware of the issues in the country. 2 women died after they were administered an anesthetic. Some people lost their vision after undergoing cataract surgery. The people were made aware of these events via the media. The politicians would not tell such things to the public. Don't you think the regulation of media that you are so interested on will obstruct the people from accessing this kind of information? Who is behind this? Either politicians or bureaucrats. Now the media has to save the people from the politicians and bureaucrats. Therefore, it is not a surprise that you are encouraging media regulation. are attempts being made to enact laws to regulate the media done with good intentions. Nalinda Jayatissa of the Jatika Janabalawegya made the following remarks on this.
Why is this act brought now? Every media institution must renew their license once a year. The government principle was to ban chemical fertilizer. The farmers are protesting, asking for the chemical fertilizer. The media reports these. If they want, they can revoke the broadcasting license through this act for publishing news against the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission. This is how things happen on one side. They are trying to block the only way the people can access information. Just like this Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act, they are trying to bring the Anti-Terrorism Act only to silence the people and not to eradicate terrorism.
The Government Teachers Association of Sri Lanka commented on the matter.
During the teachers' strike and every other struggle, independent media networks, including the Sirasa Media Network, worked to broadcast struggles very independently. Also, when the farmers were short of fertilizers and when they were facing problems, the media was there to broadcast such instances. When the Eastern Terminal was going to be sold and when the efforts were made to sell the oil tanks in Trincomalee, media institutions like Sirasa were very unbiased in reporting the opinion of the people against the sale of such property. The logic is that Ranil Wickremesinghe's government is allergic to this media freedom enjoyed by independent media networks like Sirasa. Therefore, as a trade union, we highly condemn the actions of the government. Do not try to violate the rights of the people by bringing in these kind of acts.
Tensions boiled over in Bhagavantalav on Friday when police officers attempted to arrest a man based on an alleged argument that took place inside a bank.
The individual in question had visited the bank for a transaction and had entered into an argument with the bank manager. Based on that, a complaint was filed with Sri Lanka police. The individual in question, who was arrested by Sri Lanka police, was remanded to the 27th of June after he was produced to the Hatton Magistrates Court.
News first with the people.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Paris on Friday.
Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron in Paris on day 2 of the summit for a new global financing pact. At the initiative of its president, France is hosting more than 300 high-level participants, heads of state and government, international organizations and others. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva in Paris, France on Thursday. During the meeting, the IMF chief welcomed the strong ownership by Sri Lankan government to address the current economic challenges. She noted the IMF is committed to support Sri Lanka's economic reforms to improve living standards of its people. President Wickremesinghe met with Janet Yellen, US Treasury Secretary, on the sidelines of the Paris summit for a new global financing pact. Secretary Yellen reaffirmed the United States' backing for Sri Lanka's reform agenda and requested an update on the country's progress with the International Monetary Fund procedures. The President briefed Secretary Yellen on the current situation and highlighted the challenges faced in the debt restructuring process. President Wickremesinghe also provided an update on the ongoing discussions with bilateral creditors. President Ranil Wickremesinghe participated in the 40th anniversary event of the International Democrat Union in London. President Wickremesinghe outlined plans to finalize the debt restructuring process by September.
But I think by the end of 2024 we'll be back to normal. The funding agencies will all get in and help us once the debt restructuring is over. I plan to finalize the debt restructuring by September. As I go back, the Parliament will vote on Sri Lanka's debt restructuring strategy once that is on. But what I want to do is completely liberal, structural reforms are being done. Go ahead, immediately liberalize the economy and then ensure that more investments come into Sri Lanka.
Professor Manjula Fernando was appointed as the new chairman of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka.
Professor Manjula Fernando assumed duties as the new chairman of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. The appointment was approved by the Constitutional Council that convened recently, and his name for the post of PUCSL chairman was proposed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Professor Manjula Fernando is attached to the University of Peradeniya. He was appointed to the post left vacant following the removal of Janaka Ratnayaka by a parliamentary resolution.
Another leg of the series of protests organized by the Jathika Jana Balawegaya took place in Gampaha.
The Jathika Jana Balawegaya attempted to engage in a protest march from the Gampaha district secretariat. However, Sri Lanka police did not allow that. Thereafter, the protest march was set to commence from the Gampaha General Hospital. Again, Sri Lanka police did not allow the protest march to commence. However, the Jathika Jana Balawegaya protest march proceeded to the Gampaha railway station. The protest was organized demanding immediate relief for the people.
It was the outcome feared and now confirmed that the 5 passengers aboard the submersible Titan have perished.
Now Veksha, this story was closely followed by media across the globe, and people were even counting down the minutes and seconds until when the oxygen in the submersible ran out. However, the worst has now been confirmed, and News First, Shania Dedigama brings us the details of this tragedy.
After a 5-day-long search and rescue mission for a Titanic-bound submersible, U.S. authorities declared that the vessel had suffered a catastrophic implosion. All 5 members aboard the submersible, known as the Titan, were killed. Now, last evening, the Coast Guard confirmed that they had found 5 major pieces of the Titan's debris around the Titanic site.
The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber.
An underwater robot from the Canadian vessel Horizon Arctic located 2 debris fields 1,600 feet off the bow of the Titanic wreckage. 5 major pieces consistent with the Titan were found, including the front end of the pressure hull in one field and the other end in the second field. There was no indication that there was any collision with the Titanic itself. The debris is evidence that the submersible likely suffered a catastrophic implosion during its descent to the Titanic on Sunday. An implosion is basically the exact opposite of an explosion. Instead of pressure from within moving outward, you have pressure from outside rushing in. Similar to an explosion, there is unlikely to be much left of the vessel and its cargo. This is a structural simulation of the last moments of the submarine from Argentina. The ARA San Juan disappeared mysteriously in November 2017 en route to Argentina's naval base in Mar del Plata. ARA Sun 1 imploded and sank in the southern Atlantic Ocean and was located almost exactly 1 year later. The expedition set sail on the 16th of June, and on the 18th of June, a Sunday, it lost communication 1 hour and 45 minutes after its descent. Now later that day, the US Coast Guard received a report about an overdue submersible that had gone missing from a research vessel called the Polar Prince. The next day, US and Canadian ships and planes were swarming the area, some dropping sonar buoys that could monitor to a depth of up to 4,000 meters. On Wednesday, the 21st of June, the US Coast Guard confirmed that the Canadian P-3 aircrafts were detecting underwater sounds. And on the 22nd of June, the US Coast Guard made the announcement that a debris field had been discovered on the search site. The 5-member crew were declared instantly killed in a catastrophic explosion of the vessel that was called, ironically, the Titan. Contact was lost with the submersible Sunday 1 hour and 45 minutes after it descended towards the Titanic on a tourist voyage. A Navy official says an acoustic anomaly consistent with an implosion was detected shortly after the Titan lost contact with the surface. This official said the information was relayed to the Coast Guard team, which used it to narrow the radius of the search area. The underwater banging noises detected Tuesday and Wednesday now appear to have no connection. Rescue teams will remain on scene with the underwater robots mapping the debris field, but there is no indication of if or when the remains will be brought to the surface. Josh Gates, host of the Discovery show Expedition Unknown, was planning to take a trip on OceanGate's Titan submersible and film an episode, but ultimately decided against it.
Yeah, we went up to OceanGate headquarters in 2021 and worked alongside Stockton and took a ride in Titan, went down on a shakedown dive on the sub to put it through its paces. So this was just a few months before OceanGate was going to take its first season of passengers out to Titanic. And, you know, I had a lot of really interesting experiences with Stockton. It was a thrilling experience. Titan was a really novel vehicle. But by the end of the trip, I really just came to the conclusion that this wasn't for me. And I'm not a guy who says no to dangerous things very easily. At the end of the day, the problem with Titan for me was that there is really nothing to benchmark it against. This is a vehicle that is a one-off. There is nothing else that has ever been built like Titan to go down to Titanic. It is unlike any other sub. Every other sub that goes down to these depths has a titanium or steel alloy pressure sphere. Titan was built using carbon fiber.
OceanGate has announced that 5 people on board a missing submersible died. Its CEO, Stockton Rush, Shahzada Dawood, and his son Suleiman Dawood, Hamish Harding and Paul-Henri Nargelet have died.
Moving back to some news from here at home. The revision application filed by George Stewart Health Private Limited came up before the Civil Appellate High Court today.
Counsel for MTV Channel Private Limited informed court that George Stewart Health Private Limited had obtained the interim order without submitting documents to court. Further, the counsel for MTV Channel Private Limited informed court that the ex parte interim order was obtained without submitting documents and by suppressing and misrepresenting material facts and also making false and misleading statements to court. He went on to note that therefore the interim order granted in the first instance should be vacated and should not be extended. Among other matters, he stressed that the stay order has been issued based on a purported document marked P7, and as per the case record, no such document marked P7 has been filed and it does not exist. Counsel for George Stewart Health Private Limited disputed the submissions made by the counsel for MTV Channel Private Limited and informed court that he will demonstrate to court that the Civil Appellate High Court has issued the stay order correctly. Having heard the oral submissions made by both parties, court fixed the case for support on the 18th of July 2023. The court also extended the stay order subject to the objections of MTV Channel Private Limited.
President's Counsel Udita Egalaheva, along with attorneys Niranjan Arul Pragasam and Muru Egalaheva, appeared on behalf of MTV Channels Private Limited on the instructions of attorney Gigi Arul Pragasam. President's Counsel Romesh De Silva, along with attorney Ruanthakure, appeared on behalf of George Stewart Health Private Limited on the instructions of attorney Sanath Vijayawardhana.
The 2023 Logistics Day of the General Sir John Kotalavala Defence University was held on Thursday.
The 2023 Logistics Day of the General Sir John Kotalavala Defence University was attended by Major General Milinda Piris, Arya Tilaka Vepitiyage and many other dignitaries. Speaking at the event, Major General Milinda Piris said the following.
We all experience long fuel queues and the related agony due to all sort of shortages that adversely affected our day-to-day life. The whole experience, I believe, is an eye-opener for all the stakeholders in supply chain management. It was also a revelation of the extremely important role played by the supply chain managers. It has become essential to re-engineer, as you have termed it, the supply chain to face contemporary challenges. And it is the collective responsibility of the academia, industry experts and the student community to take measures to resolve supply chain issues through innovations.
The main purpose of this project was to strengthen the collaboration between the industry and the academic field and contribute to the development of logistics and supply chain education and professionalism in Sri Lanka. This year's theme was focused on re-engineering supply chain towards sustainability, assuring survival and coexistence.
A brand new coral reef has recently started to emerge around the breakwater of the Colombo port city. News First, Senithasena Nayaka reports.
Many locations in Sri Lanka have naturally grown coral reefs. Jaffna, Kalpitiya, Trincomalee and Hektadur are just to name a few. They provide life and shelter to millions of marine life that inhabit the sea of Sri Lanka. With growth rates of 0.3 to 2 centimeters per year for massive corals and up to 10 centimeters per year for branching corals, it can take up to 10,000 years for a coral reef to form from a group of larvae. Depending on their size, barrier reefs and atolls can take from 100,000 to 30 million years to fully form. But a few months ago, a newly formed coral reef was discovered around the breakwater in Port City, Colombo. It was discovered by retired Admiral Piyal De Silva, the 23rd Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy, who is also a marine environment conservationist.
When I was in Colombo in 2019, I wanted to go on diving. So I selected the dive site of Port of Colombo. It's a sunken shipwreck called Astoria. On that particular day, when we came to the location and looked for the usual transit bearing, and I could not locate a particular bearing point because that point was covered by a building that has been constructed recently. So then I decided to come to Port City, breakwater, and dive there to see whether any kind of fish available there. So when I dive along the breakwater, I realized that corals are growing in most of the boulders and the china pots. China pots are the interlocks that are placed on the breakwater, top of the breakwater, to make it stronger. That basically fortify the strength of the breakwater. Sometimes later, I met the managing director of the Port City, then managing director, and explained him the situation, and I requested from him to prevent any sand going to that side so that it would, there could be some damage to the coral reef. So therefore, avoid sand being pumped to that area. He said, no, don't worry, the sand will not go to that area, it's only reclaiming this side, so that will be kept free. So from that point onward, I took this site as a research site for me and started recording the growth of corals.
Right now, the corals are in the early stages. According to Admiral De Silva, this breakwater might eventually grow into a fully fledged coral colony and may set a record as one of the longest man-made cum natural coral reefs, possibly the longest in the entire globe. Admiral De Silva has begun a mission to replant the corals that have broken loose from the coral colony with the assistance of the port city leadership, and have begun to grow new corals, making use of a recently established underwater coral nursery.
The moment I inform the situation, unlike other countries, Sri Lanka has abundant resources in the marine environment. So Sea of Sri Lanka is very important in this aspect. So these resources can be nicely harvested for the benefit of the people. So our marine ecology has a vast expansion. So many varieties. Even if you take this coral reef, there are variety of species available, right, within length of 4 kilometers, right? And I am pretty sure that this breakwater going to be the world longest man-made cum natural coral reef. Man-made is the breakwater, natural part is the natural growth of coral. We did not plant the corals, it naturally grew on the breakwater.
A team of ex-Navy divers are working on this reef, making sure that it grows properly. This area is not open to the public yet, but very soon many of you will get a chance to see this in person. And when you do, please make sure to protect it. Only then we will be able to preserve it for future generations that deserve to see the beauty of the sea of Sri Lanka. Laknuan Varnakula Surya, Senita Senanayaka, News First, Colombo.
India's first International Creators Fest Social Creator of the Year Awards 2023 was held in Colombo today. Legends 966 and News First were the media partners for this event.
Many top Indian influencers came down to Sri Lanka for the Social Creator of the Year Awards 2023, followed by a 3-day stay where they will be participating in various entertainment activities. A special Sri Lankan cultural night was held for the influencers on Thursday in Colombo.
This is my first time, but it's so good here. This is my second day, but I'm already so enjoying. It's really good because I think the beaches are so good, and I feel the most people come here, and Sri Lanka will be explored much more because we as a content creator, we just go to Goa or just the more, the obvious places. So Sri Lanka is very pretty, I feel.
I'm here for the first time in Sri Lanka. People back home know me for my influencing, for my acting. I'm basically an actor, and I'm super excited to be here.
This is the first time I've come to Sri Lanka, Colombo, and I think it's the best decision of this year. I've liked it so much that I'm extending my stay by 4 days, and let's hope I go back to Mumbai. Well, I've always thought that the tourism of Sri Lanka doesn't really require a boost because it's so pretty and it's so beautiful anyway. But since we've got this opportunity, the idea is to cover the essence of Sri Lanka, the people, the food, the places where we stay, and the activities that happen in Sri Lanka. And I think it's going to be a great next 2 days. We have the awards happening over here and the team is fantastic.
This event is conducted as a boost to tourism for Sri Lanka. The grand finale will be held on Friday at Colombo.
The LOLC Divisavya program, launched to lend a helping hand to students of Sri Lanka, entered its 50th day on Friday, and several programs took place around the Ratnapura district.
The LOLC Divisavya program is launched to lend a helping hand to the students who are the future of Sri Lanka. This Worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. Books and other stationery items were distributed among students of the Athoya Sarasavi Vidyalaya, Nelwala Vidyalaya, Alupula Tamil Vidyalaya and Heliyana Vidyalaya. Another team also visited the Pottakanda Udatula and Sri Bodhi School and the Morugala Tamil School. Books and other stationery items were distributed among students at the Ratnapura Zonal Education Office. The LOLC Divisavya program will press on in their endeavour to to support the education of these children.
In sports news, Sri Lanka brushed off Oman in their Group B encounter at the Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo by registering a thumping 10-wicket victory. The result meant that they climbed to the summit of Group B and put themselves in a strong position to qualify for the Super 6 stage of the tournament. Sri Lankan skipper Dasun Shanaka called it right at the toss at the Queen's Sports Club in Bulawayo and opted to bowl first. His call paid immediate dividends as Sri Lanka had a brilliant start with the ball, with their pacers breathing fire on the Oman batters. The pace of Lahiru Kumara and Kasun Rajatha was too much for the Oman top order to handle as they found themselves in massive trouble early on. His second consecutive 5-wicket haul in the tournament, trapping Bilal Khan for 0 as Oman were bowled out for 98. Chasing a low total of 99, openers Dimut Karunaratne and Pathum Nisanka barely broke a sweat, completing the task in 15 overs. Karunaratne was unbeaten on 61, while Nisanka scored 37, as Sri Lanka not only sealed a win but also bolstered their net run rate.
Scotland won by a comfortable 111 runs against the UAE at the ICC Cricket World Cup qualifiers in Bulawayo.
UAE won the toss at the Bulawayo Athletic Club and opted to field first. The call proved to be a correct one for Wasim as UAE made early inroads with the ball, rocking the Scotland top order. Skipper Richie Berrington and the hero of Scotland's victory over Ireland, Michael Leask, combined to stitch together a much-needed stand for Scotland. Scotland posted a competitive total of 282 for 8 wickets in their 50 overs for UAE to chase. Scotland established a perfect platform to clinch their second win in a row at the qualifier, with their bowlers putting them in charge after a Richie Berrington masterclass. Chasing 283, UAE already had a tall ask at hand, but some brilliant bowling from Scotland bowlers further set them back. UAE were bundled out for 171 runs in 35.3 overs.
We done really well in the Afghanistan series.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the News First team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara. Good night.